Welcome to the Bridging the Generation podcast. I am your host, Malak Arif, and today I got another special guest for y'all. Now, before we even get started, I'm going to need y'all to get this engagement up. Come on, let's get these likes up. Let's get this engagement up. You know, it definitely helps with the YouTube algorithm. So look, I appreciate that. And I'm going to give y'all a second to go ahead and knock that out. All right, let's get into it. Coming to the BTG podcast platform all the way from Dayton, Ohio. This brother has collaborated with artists such as Snoop Dogg, Damn Funk, Thundercat, Michael McDonald. He has been sampled by numerous hip-hop artists such as Jay-Z, Snoop Dogg, De La Soul, Jermaine Dupri, the list goes on. He's known for hits such as Weaker Than These, Nobody Can Be You But You, Wait For Me, Just a Touch of Love, Watching You. We talking about legendary funk royalty. And I'm talking about none other than Steve Arrington from Steve Arrington's Hall of Fame and the original lead frontman and drummer of the group Slave. So no further ado, thank you guys for tuning in, and let's get into it. Welcome to the Bridging the Generation podcast. I'm your host, Malak Arif, and today, as y'all can clearly see on this screen, we have a legend. I'm talking about lead singer of the legendary group Slave, Mr. Steve Arrington. Man, how's it going, brother?
Malak, I'm doing well, man. Doing well. Enjoying myself today. Hey, I got up another day, right?
So no doubt.
It's a good day.
So what Ice Cube say, it's a good day.
It's a good day.
I know that's right. Well, look, with everything that's going on, I have to ask most of my guests, all my guests, you know, how have you been maintaining with this whole pandemic, this COVID-19, this craziness that's just going on out here?
Well, daily, just making decisions and staying focused on what I feel works for me and my family in terms of where we go and where we don't, and how much we go and how much we don't, and who to be around and who not to be around. So you have to make these decisions daily. And, you know, I try to make sure that I'm taking care of my family with those decisions and myself, so that I can get back out here and make this music and do this music. And my family can go back to all the various things and jobs and whatnot that they're able to do. So, hey, man, I'm just trying to be on good percentages on my decision making. So that I can get on the other side of this thing like everyone else, and we all can get on the other side and then forge ahead, you know. That's pretty much the way I've been doing it.
I like the way you put that. I definitely like the way to put that. Very optimistic. And we should be, because we've been through a lot as a people and as a country. So I appreciate you. I share the same sentiment. So look, Mr. Arrington, the reason why you're here, brother, is because, in my opinion, I personally do not feel that you or Slave, I hate to say this to an artist because you're a legend. People know that, but in my opinion, you're on the Mount Rushmore of funk. Like, that's just what it is. No disrespect to anybody else, and no other. I love great artists, and I include you in that. So with that being said, I want to go back to the beginning. I want to know the story of Steve Arrington and the story of Slave. So take me back. You're originally from Dayton, Ohio, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right, Dayton, Ohio.
Okay, so talk to me a little bit about Dayton, Ohio, and some of your earliest musical influences.
Well, to start with, in Dayton, Ohio, we can't talk about music that's out of Dayton without first talking about the Ohio Players.
Talk about it.
The Ohio Players was the first group to hit out of Dayton that started the Dayton funk movement. Some would say the funkiest place on earth. I'm not going to argue with that. I'm going to agree with it.
Yeah.
That being said, though, the Ohio Players, they came out the box in the late 60s. First song they did was called Pain, and it was crazy. And they're, I'd say, 10 years ahead of me. Okay. So when you're a kid, that's a big deal when you're 10 years old and you're listening to this music.
Right.
They're in their 20s. So in a small town like Dayton, there's not a lot of places to go, not a lot of things to do. So Battle of the Bands and talent shows were huge, very big deal. So after the Ohio Players hit, which I call, and it's the truth, the fathers of Dayton funk, all these groups came, and we were having groups in every street, it seemed like, garage, basement. My brother, I have a brother who is 7 years older than me.
Okay.
He had a band, my brother Victor. And a lot of the people that were in the Players were in his band before they joined the Players.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So, yeah, man, this whole small town thing started in the basement and in someone's garage.
Okay.
And the Players were so unique and original. We didn't try to follow them in terms of their sound.
Right.
But we wanted to follow them in terms of continuing that originality, that uniqueness in our own way. So if you listen to Dayton music, all these acts that came out of Dayton, I'll list some. The Ohio Players, Heat Wave, Zap, Slave, Lakeside, Sun, solo artist, Vesta Williams, solo artist, Cece Peniston.
Right.
I can go on. The group Dayton itself. Phaso. If you listen to these names and their music, none of the groups sounded alike.
None.
Totally unique. And what's so interesting about the Dayton sound is the fact that it has a sound, but it isn't a sound that's centered around one group or centered around one producer or centered around a team of songwriters. It's a sound that is centered around, it's heavy, it's hard, it's hitting hard, it's melodic, but more than anything, it has an air of we don't know what's about to come next in the music. Heat Wave is a good example of this.
Okay.
Boogie Nights starts off with a swing. Boogie Nights, ding, 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 they're doing a swing thing, right? Then all of a sudden they drop into this funk, right?
Right.
Ohio Players start a song with a drum solo. I wanna be free, right?
Yeah.
The song drum starts off, it's a ballad that starts with a drum solo. So those types of things in Dayton groups were the unique things that made us different, because we weren't afraid to go with what we felt that may align itself with groups and music from bigger markets. We didn't even think like that. Right. We just went with what, like the great Mark Adams, bass player for Slave. He had a lot of fret noise in his sound. You could hear the frets where as maybe you go to a bigger city, it's like, man, we got to get rid of that fret noise, man. That we got to get rid of that fret noise.
And can
But
I interject for a second?
please,
And please
please.
don't forget your train of thought, because I was going to get into that particular musician, because I'm a huge fan of Mark Adams. But
Mm,
what I wanted to ask, now that we here,
mhm.
I always thought like that fret from his bass, like how did he get his you mentioned all of these great groups that came from Dayton, from
Mhm.
Phaso and Heatwave, and you're right, all of not only did they not all sound different, but the musicianship, you can tell, you can tell by the lead singers and the musicianship. But with you guys, that Mark Adams bass backed by your drumming was so distinctive, and to me is the reason why you guys are the most distinctive of those bands. And I love all of them. I love all of them. So talk about that Mark Adams bass playing, because I wanted to ask you, were they just turning the volume up on like the engineers on his bass playing, because it drove a lot of those tracks.
Well, it was in Mark's fingers for one. Also, the leader, Stevie Washington, was very much ahead of his time in terms of studio understanding. Now,
Mm-hmm.
when the group first came out, they did Slide. I joined the group off the third album, the concept album.
Concept, yeah, yeah.
Their first album, Slave, with the hit Slide,
Slide,
they were
yep.
16 years old.
Kids.
Yeah. And not only were they playing at such a high level, Stevie Washington's understanding of the engineering and mixing and that
Right.
sort of thing at 16 years old, he heard Mark Adams' sound and he enhanced it. We used to use a lot of Sherwin Vega equipment at that time, which carried low end very cleanly.
Mm.
Sometimes we recorded with our sound system in the studio, coming right off of it to tape. So we did cool stuff. We always did unique things, or we take maybe several tracks and just Adams, you got all those tracks, just the bass. You know what I mean? We did interesting
Yeah,
things like that. And that was primarily instituted by Stevie Washington and a group who was in our circle, who, from the engineering producing point of view, Jimmy
Jimmy
Douglas,
Douglas.
who's gone on
Yeah.
to do amazing work and as an engineer,
Okay.
and that and mixing. So
Okay.
we had a great team, and we weren't afraid. We took the strengths of the group, and Stevie understood this at a young age, and we always put that forward, the
Okay.
strengths of the band, and it was a very bass driven band.
Okay. So let
Um,
me go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Because we getting a little ahead
well,
of ourselves, man.
yeah, well,
Nah, but I hear
and
what you're saying. I didn't mean it like that, because what you're saying is this is, man. I really appreciate everything you say. Matter of fact, keep going, brother.
well, I was just going to end by saying I think Mark Adams has one of the most profound
Yeah.
sounds on wax. His sound in the
Yeah.
studio to me is second to none. It jumps at
Mm.
you. It's not too bright, it's not too anything. It just jumps at you and it grabs you. That's his fingers. But
Mm.
making sure that you got his fingers,
No doubt.
we made sure that all the trappings were there. So when he did what he had to do, if he did a woo, woo, right, you heard it and you felt it. It was like
Oh
it was
man,
right in your
you
face.
felt.
It
Oh my
wasn't
God.
far away.
Yes.
You feel
Yeah.
me?
Yeah.
So we worked on that, and his
Yeah.
sound, in my opinion, I'll say it again, second to none.
Second to none. I'm thinking about, how that distinctiveness in you guys sound. You could tell a slave song, because at the beginning you go hear. I don't know if you heard that, but it would have
I
that.
heard it.
Oh,
I heard it.
and I'm like, oh, that's slave. That
Yeah.
is so. how did you guys come up with that? Like letting a lot of those signature riffs from the late Mark Adams. How did you guys put that together and incorporate that into you guys sound and making that making that a very distinctive concept in you guys' music?
Well, Mark Adams played with such passion, and he made a lot of moves on the bass, but it never sounded like he was overplaying. Mm-hmm. He was just responding. And the beautiful thing about Mark Adams, he could play whatever he heard in his mind. Mm. So when he started to move around the instrument, it had an effortless quality to it because he had put the work in his practice and technique, so that his technique was not something he had to get around, overcome through what he was doing. He didn't have to think. He just responded. And what you hear is a musician who is responding to his emotions without technique getting in the way. You know what I'm saying? He could pull off everything he was trying to. You feel me?
That's amazing.
Because he had put in the work before he got into the studio. We went and played live. And he did this at a very young age. Again, he did slide when he was 16 years old.
A lot of people forget about that.
Yeah. And so he's a very special. He's one of my favorite bass players ever. And I've known him since he was 14, 15 years old.
Okay.
And to this day, I mimic his bass playing. I'll just be following along, listening to the records, all the playing, blank, blank, all the, all the different moves. All the different moves. Like you said, signature moves. You couldn't help but capture it because he had so many things in his playing that made him unique that you could quickly, they were like hooks. They were like vocal hooks. Let's say it that way.
Yeah. I would say it like this, Steve. One thing, there's a lot of great bass players, from Rock Jones that you just mentioned, from the Ohio players, and Vern Dean, White, Larry Graham. We can go on and on and on. Lewis Johnson. But the thing that I love about Mark Adams was not only did he have technique, but he had a signature sound, like sonically, that just stood out. Like there was no way around that. He was almost like a Michael Jordan of the bass. He had no weaknesses.
Yeah. Mark Adams was like a hurricane coming, bro.
Well, look, I want to shift gears for a second because you just mentioned you know Mark Adams since you was 14. So I want to take it back a little bit. A lot of fans of Slave may not know this, but you're the drummer. You were the not the original drummer. You came on the third album, the concept, but you were primarily the drummer during the prime years, what I consider like the highlight of Slave's, catalog, in my opinion. I love the first album, nothing against that. Got it right here. But so talk about that. Talk about when did you start playing the drums and what got you into to music?
Well, I'll first start with how I started to play with Slave and my connection with Mark Adams. We were in a local group called the Young Mystics. Prior to him going to Slave and prior to me going out to the West Coast to make it. Because see, when they were freshmen talking about Mark Adams, Mark Hicks, Danny Webster, rest in peace to all my brothers.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Danny.
Yes.
Just past last year.
Yes. Yeah, these is the homies, man. And so Floyd Miller, getting back to the actual how we came together, Floyd Miller, Tom Lockett, who both play horns in Slave, and Floyd also sang and played percussion. Those two guys Mark Adams and myself were in a group called the Young Mystics. Now, what's so interesting about that, if you can add Drac and Danny Webster, we all were in the 6th period music class together, and the teacher would let us jam. So the nucleus of Slave minus Stevie Washington became later. We used to jam together in music at the school we went to, Rolfe High School in Dayton.
Okay.
We would jam every time we went to 6th period after we got our basic criteria stuff done that we needed to get done. So we knew each other well that way. Now, the second part of your question, how did I get into drumming, was it?
Yes. When did you start your interest in music as far as being a drummer?
Okay. I have always loved music, and I always loved the drums. I did the whole pots and pans thing. I did books, and I had the books on different sizes so I could get different tones. I'd have the big fat books to get my kick drum sound.
Okay.
And so on and so forth in terms of the size of the books to get different tones, right? I did this every day. And finally, my grandparents said, man, we got to get this boy some drums. And so my grandparents bought me a blue metal flake set of Slingerland drums. And I was 8 years old when they did that.
Okay.
And since I had already been messing around with pots and pans and books and things, when I got the drum set, I was kind of, I ain't going to say I was nice.
It was on.
But I was on my way in my mind. I'm going to end up being nice, right? You know what I'm saying? I loved it, man. And my early experiences, again, my brother had a band, local band, and people like Junie Morrison was in his band, one of the lead vocalists, Ohio players. Marvin Pierce, which also Ohio players. And also we had some guys from some of the other bands who went and made it, like the original drummer from Slave, Tim Dozier. I used to watch him in my brother's Tiny Tim. So yeah, man, these guys would come through my house. I'm the little guy on the step and watching all of this, and they trusted me and said, hey, man, we see you're interested. And since Victor is the leader of the group and we rehearse at your house, you can play these drums if you want. And I'll feel okay about it because I'll know you'll take care of it. So I have my own set.
Right.
But to be able to play on the guys I'm looking up to, and they let me play on their stuff too when they weren't there, that was a big deal for me. My brother trusted me. They trusted me. And so I had this music going on around me all the time. And it was something I felt very early. I knew what I wanted to do. The only thing, there was a rival for a minute with baseball. I used to play second base, and I was with it, right?
You was a Reds fan? Cincinnati Reds fan? The big red machine.
The big red machine, yes. Sir. I was with that. But in the end, I had to make a decision after a while, and I'm like, you know what? I got to go with this music thing, man, because I'm about at 100. And I love it as much today as I did when I was making those decisions on which way I was going to go as a little guy, dreaming about doing the things that I've been doing. And I'm still dreaming with it today. I just want to keep playing and singing and writing and doing music and doing interviews like this, talking about music. This is great.
Oh, thank you, brother. It's an honor, man. I'm glad you said that because I could talk some music. So look, since we talking music, you entered the group and officially in 1978. Now, you said that this is something I never knew until our conversation right now. You perform and were in groups with these guys, but you were not on the first album or the second album. So how come you did not make the first album? I don't want to say make the first album, but what happened between the time that you guys were playing and from the time that they released that self-titled project in 1977?
Well, the times that those people's name that I mentioned that we were in a group together, we were called the Young Mystics. So it wasn't Slave per se. I moved out to the West Coast, to the Bay Area specifically, to make it. Now, I was senior when they were freshmen, right? So, and we had a janky manager dude, but they were freshmen, and I was a senior.
Okay.
And I was like, I introduced them. As a matter of fact, before I left to go to California, I introduced them to Carter Bradley, who ends up being their pianist on the first album.
First project, yeah.
I introduced him to those guys that were the Young Mystics at the time before I left. And they came together. Stevie Washington then comes down from New Jersey, East Orange, New Jersey.
Okay. He
and Drac, Mark Hicks, hook up. They took some people from the Young Mystics, those names that I mentioned, and fused it with some other guys, and then they called themselves Slave. Now, one of the people that they brought in was Tim Dozier, who was playing drums with my brother some years earlier.
Okay.
And by the way, Marvin Craig also played, the bass player for Lakeside, played in my brother's band.
That's wild.
So that's kind of how they assembled. I was out in California playing with the Escovedos, Pete and Sheila Escovedo, also known as Sheila E. Right, exactly. And her uncle.
The percussions, yeah. Coke
Escovedo, yes.
Coke Escovedo. That's my man. I love some Coke and Pete. I love the whole Escovedo family, man.
Coke,
you hit a trigger for me when you mentioned that name. I just I lose it, man. I myself, I'm a drummer myself, so that's why I got you on here. Yeah, so this is special for me. But continue. I'm sorry.
Well, no, man. We having a good time. I'm just saying, I went out to make it, and boom, I landed the gig with Coke Escovedo to play drums. And he really took me under his wing. Right now, in the midst of this, Slave now is a group. They have people from Young Mystics, added some people. They turned their name, changed it into Slave. Boom, 77. I graduated from high school in 75. Okay. So I did a lounge band thing for a while, toured, went out to California at 77 now. I'm listening to the radio. Slide. And I'm like, man, I'm feeling that. I like that. So I go to the record store, right? And I'm like, I just heard this thing called Slide by Group Slave, something like that. They said, oh, yeah, I'm like, that's a crazy album cover. I like that. I flip it over and I see half of the homies from the Young Mystics. I'm like, whoa, that's the brothers. Yeah. Now I'm playing with the Escovedos. They're doing their thing. We're calling each other, excited about what we're doing in the midst of the earlier stuff before I was around, talking about the first two albums.
No doubt. They
decide to make a drum chair change while on tour on their second album, which is the Hardness of the World album. So they called me and asked me, you go ahead and say what you got to say.
I have to ask because I'm a diehard Slave fan. See, there's people that's fans and then you got people that's lead me like fanatics.
Come on.
So I gotta ask, Steve, what made them to change from Tim to you,
Well,
what happened?
Well, they was having some issues, but amongst themselves in terms of how they felt Tim was gelling with the group. I don't really know all of it because that was happening. See, I'm on the West Coast. They're now on the East Coast. Because see
Okay.
what happened. Slave is a hybrid of Dayton and also East Orange, New Jersey, where Stevie
Mhm.
Washington is
Okay.
from, the original leader before Mark Adams became the leader. So they were in Dayton a lot and they were in New Jersey a lot. And when
Okay.
they landed their record deal, they were in New Jersey because Stevie Washington was the leader of the group.
Okay.
So I don't know all that went on, but
Mhm.
they decided they weren't happy with how things were continuing on with Tim. So Mark Adams says, I know this guy, Blase Blase Scoop. I really like, us to go that direction. Now he had and I had established a rapport, musical bond that was intense while we
Right.
were in the Young Mystics. So
Mm.
when he called me up and said, "Hey man, what do you think? You want to join the band?" I was just finishing my tenure with Pete and Sheila Escovedo,
Wow.
17-piece salsa band, right?
Mm. Mm-mm.
And Sheila was now going to go with George Duke was when the whole world, when she went with George Duke, they
Yeah.
had seen this female percussionist for the first
Yeah.
time. They'd never seen anything like this before. And I
Yeah.
hadn't prior to me going out there to the West Coast and ended up playing with the Escovedo
Yeah.
family.
Because she was on
That means,
the Don't Let Go project, George Duke's Don't Let Go project,
yeah,
I believe.
man, come
It
on,
came out.
man. People was like, yo, man, what's up with this?
Young girl, very
Yeah,
young.
she was 19 years old when I
Yeah, it
was
wasn't.
playing. I think
Yeah, it
she
wasn't
was
even in
about
her 20s.
19, 20 when she got with George.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I joined the Escovedos, I was 20. I was 20 when I joined Slave, moving into getting into the group, not exactly knowing what was going on with Tim. But I will tell you the story on my first day getting into the band. It's
Let's go.
fascinating.
Let's go.
Okay, I say yes. I'm down. I'm gonna come back to Dayton.
Okay.
Well, it wasn't Dayton. They were in New Jersey. Now I have my drum set. At that time, I had a blue set of fiberglass drums, fiberglass set
Ooh.
of drums, right?
Mm.
So I'm like, okay, I'm coming to Jersey. So they fly me to Jersey and we're going to this place, Ormont, for the first rehearsal.
Okay.
Me reuniting with the homies that were the Young Mystics who have joined up with others. Drac and Danny are there, the guys we were all in sixth period together,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
Stevie Washington, Orion Wilhoit. And so here I come, my first day of rehearsal. I open my drum case, pull out my bass drum, and it split right down the seam on the
Ooh.
plane. So when
Ah,
I pull the bass drum out, it just goes boing, it just pops
yeah.
open like this. And I'm like, man, I'm mortified, dude. I mean, I'm
Oh,
like,
man.
nah, that's not the way the intro of this thing's
This,
supposed
yeah,
to go.
this a bad sign. You probably thinking, man,
I'm
what
like,
have I
ah.
what have I done?
But it so happens
Okay.
now, even though I was there to take Tim's place, he had 2 to 3 more weeks yet in his tenure with them.
Okay.
He didn't have anything against me and vice versa. Because
Hmm.
remember, I had known him and watched him play years prior to
With
this
your
even
brother.
happening with Slave
With your
with my
brother.
brother.
Yeah.
So he didn't take it personally because whatever their decision was to part ways, it had nothing to do with me.
Right. Okay.
So he allowed me to play his drums until I was able to get my situation straightened out because my drums basically, the bass drum cracked open, broke on the plane. So my initial time of rehearsing with Slave, I was playing Tim Dozier's drums while he was still there.
Wow.
And it worked because we
Yeah.
were friends and whatever went on between them, it was something they both decided needed to happen.
Now Tim
So it
was a
was
little older.
he was much older.
He was much
He was
older than
like
those
30.
guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was more like him, Carter Bradley. Everyone else was like 16.
Yeah.
Carter Bradley, Tim Dozier, and then later Ray Turner, who came on the second album, Hardness of the
Second album.
World,
Yeah.
keyboards. They were all like 25, 26. So you had 16-year-olds on one end, and you have
Right.
25, 26, 27-year-olds on another with three
Yeah.
other members.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
interesting thing going on. So
Yeah.
Tim and the young guys and Tim as a guy, I don't know how that went down.
I can
Why it didn't pan.
imagine though. I can see
Yeah,
it's a huge that's a huge generation gap right there. You
it
know,
is. It is.
and then you have, you know, these very talented young guys, and then you have an older gentleman that, you know, he might feel a certain way. So I can kind of understand what happened. You don't even really have to tell me,
Yeah,
you know, but I
yeah,
get it.
yeah. So, you know, I joined the band. Tim and I cool to this day. And my first joint, we go into the studio and I play Stellar Funk. Now we rehearsed. When I first started rehearsing, the first thing we did we jammed one day. And me and that, it was just Adams and I. And we went into this baseline groove thing, and I went into my hi-hat thing, right?
Okay.
And it was just he and I at first, and we looked at each other. Now remember, we had bonded when we were local, so striking up a groove between us when we got back together, it was instant.
I got you.
So I get on the drums, I'm playing this Kate, he drops this bass, and we look at each other like, we still got it. You know, that combination. Danny and those guys hear this, they jump on the guitars, and the next thing you know, they're Stellar Funk.
Ooh, classic.
And
That's a
so
classic.
it was awesome. And so I was excited because it started off with my drum case messed up and my drum split open. But as a week or two in, as I got acclimated, we ended up doing Stellar Funk, man.
Now you wrote that, you helped write that song, and you did Stellar Funk, The Way You Love Is Heaven, and Thank You Lord. You co-wrote all those, all three of those songs, didn't you?
The Way You Love Is Heaven. Yeah.
Talk about that. Yes. Talk about how was it, you know, joining the band as an integral member now, and you're also helping with the co-writing, because again, man, that album has 7 tracks, but you helped co-write the first 3 songs.
Well, you know, we had that relationship with the Mystics, and we would do original material then that we were starting on. So they knew that side of me. They also knew that I could contribute to what they already had going.
Gotcha.
And since I knew Danny Webster and also Mark Hicks from our times, we would all be in 6th period together.
Right.
There was a bonding that we had that when we came together, it was like we had always been together. So my contributions at that time were more from the background point of view on that album, the concept, except they let me do this thing on the bridge of Coming Soon.
So, yeah.
And I said, step inside my love cabin, XTC's moments away. You will see that, right? And they let me do my thing on that, right?
Yeah.
And they was like, yo, man, we need to bring you more as we need to use your voice more into what we're doing. And that's kind of what was so cool about Slave, is they always accentuated what they decided was a nice pivot, a nice pivot point, right?
Right.
And so they added me to it. They felt that, yo, man, you're bringing something unique to what we're doing. We're going to add you in the pot. It was no, well, you will see what happens after your 10 years a while and you got to pay these dues. No, it wasn't like that. It was like, yo,
Let's
we
go.
feeling you, man. Let's do this.
Let's go.
And again, I have to attribute such respect for Stevie Washington, who at that time, when I joined the band, I joined that band on my 21st birthday. That was the other thing that was so crazy. It was on my birthday that I opened the box and the bass drum is split. Right.
So I hope they gave you a birthday gift.
Well, yeah.
Another bass drum.
Well, you know what was so cool when they found out it's like, this is your birthday, bro? I'm like, yeah, man, it's my birthday. So, I mean, it was just like, oh, this is crazy. So even though it started off funny for me,
right,
it wasn't like I imagined, but the whole birthday thing made everything even much more cool because it was like, well, how wild is that you joined Slave on your birthday? Okay. So we rolled off of that versus, man, what's up with the drum kit? You know what I'm saying? We rolled off the birthday thing, which I was happy about because I was very disappointed.
That
my drum kit did not make it. You feel
I can see that stings even to this day, like 40 years later.
Come on, man. I couldn't believe it, bro. I'm like, yeah, let me take my stuff out the cases, bro. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, I got my cases. All my cases are pro. My stuff is all pro. And I take my
as a drummer, I can. Oh man, that never happened to me, but I can only imagine. You know, it would rock my world. It would shake up the world. So look, let's fast forward a little bit. So you know, the concept project drops in '78, and a lot of people don't know that that was the first time you joined the band. Now, on that first album, Jeff Dixon, he produced that project. But here we go, the second project. And now you're more in the forefront. Like you're basically the lead singer at this point. How did that feel to get that torch? Because really, Slave didn't have a lead singer. They were kind of like Cool in the Gang. But now it's like on Just a Touch of Love, 1979, you guys link with Jimmy Douglas. So talk about you being more stepping up to the forefront, and about that transition from Jeff Dixon to Jimmy Douglas.
Well, Jeff Dixon was executive producer. Jimmy Douglas was producer from the beginning. But Jeff Dixon, as a manager of the group, the executive producer thing was very much pushed. You feel what I'm saying? Jimmy Douglas was really producing the records. But on the third album, the Jeff Dixon effect was not in effect. So things seemed more clear to whomever was watching and seeing what was going on.
Okay.
But that transition was, for me, is when we went into the studio to do the Just a Touch of Love album, we had worked on the track and didn't have vocals to it yet. And we assumed one of the brothers, because Slave didn't have a lead singer in a sense that they had a rotating lead singer thing, like on Slide, like the Temptations.
Right.
You've got the high voice on Slide. You got the low voice on Slide, the mid voice. You have Drac doing his rap parts, right?
Right.
And so they would switch off on songs and switch off in the midst of a song in a way that the Temptations would do.
Yeah.
So we did the track Just a Touch of Love, right? We knew the track was crazy. And so we assumed the one brother was going to sing the song. Well, he kind of just disappeared. He just left the studio.
What one brother you talking about?
I ain't gonna say the name.
I know who you talking about, so you don't have to tell me because I know. Let's keep
I
it
ain't gonna say the name.
moving. I know who it is because let's keep it moving, yo. But I just thought that was crazy. I just thought that was
Right.
crazy. You brought it up, not me. I was gonna bring it up, but I heard about that, and I just think like right now you're gonna do that now. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Hey, so that's
Yeah.
just disappeared, and we're in the studio, and we're going. Okay, we didn't know when he was gonna come back, and so Jimmy just said, "Hey, man, go. Each one of y'all go around the mic and come up with something."
Right.
I was the last because I was there to play drums. Now, what I added vocally, they thought, but in between the second album and the Just a Touch of Love album, Starlina Young was added as a singer on the concept album.
Was Kurt Jones?
He was added on the Just a Touch of Love album.
And they later on became Aura.
They became Aura. Yeah. And they were actually recruited in Slave for their vocal abilities and their writing. Mm-hmm. So, in the way it looked at, as far as I was concerned, I was the last one to go to the mic because you also had, excuse me, you also had the guys who had been singing, Drac, Floyd, who were still there, who were part of the, you take some lines, you take some, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Now you got vocal reinforcements.
Yes.
So everybody goes to the mic, doing their thing and coming up with something. I'm going there. Steve, you come and you go up and see what you got going. I'm like, and they're like, hold it. I don't know what that is, bro. But that's working. And so I'm watching them. I'm at the mic and they're in the booth. They stop the music and they're talking to each other, Adams and all of them and Jimmy, and they're going back and forth. I could tell they're like deciding, we don't know what this is, but this is working. It doesn't sound like Slide. Yeah, it doesn't sound like the vocals from the other two albums. After Slide, which would be The Hardness of the World and The Concept, right?
Talk about it. Let's go.
So they say, go to the studio, the hotel, come with some words tomorrow. I'm like, okay. So I come back, make me shine just, and they stop. Yo, we don't know what that is, bro. But we liking that. I'm like, they're like, and then Jimmy Douglas says, well, sing it straight. I don't even know what that means. Sing it straight. So I attempt to undo whatever that was I was doing that they didn't know. And he said, no. Okay, go back to what you was doing. Go back to what you was doing. Okay. Anyway, and so it turns out to be Just a Touch of Love, the lead vocal. And then the guy comes back who we figured would, write to this song and lead it. When he hears it, he's like, oh my God, man. Arrington, you did that? I'm like, yeah. Yo, man, that's dope. That's hitting. Yeah. So there was no animosity with that. Yeah. But it was strange how it happened because had things been different, perhaps he would have done a thing at the mic and Jimmy would have said, no, that's not it. And we'd ended up this way anyway. But the way it went down, when he disappeared, the rest of us was just in the studio sitting, waiting every day until finally Jimmy just said, listen, we can't just keep losing money. Go to the mic, guys, and come up with something, because we were reserving the song for him. Mm-hmm. We just assumed he was going to write to it and sing to it. Mm-hmm. And that's how I primarily became the lead vocalist of Slave.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah,
Let's talk about that.
it just sort of happened.
Let's go. Let's talk about that because
Okay.
Steve, you have one of the most unique, and I'm sure you heard this like a million times. You have one of the most unique vocal tones in not just rhythm and blues history, but in music history. Um, how did you develop that style? Because you mentioned how the guys wanted you to do something else. What was that? What you did with your voice? And you said this is just how I sing. So talk about how did you come up with that particular style, and where did you just get that whole swag from, brother? Because this man, just hearing you and then seeing you perform, brother, is something. It's something that everyone should see.
Well, I wasn't known as the singer in Dayton. I was the drummer. But what I would do, I sang all the time and I would mimic instruments.
Mm.
So, like for instance, I'll take for instance Bandit Gypsies, live machine gun guitar solo,
Mm. Jimi
which is
Hendrix.
one of my yes, which is one of my favorite. It is my favorite guitar solo. Period.
Better than
That
better than
solo,
Maggot Brain.
man, that solo for me, and I love me some Maggot Brain too. But
That's a
that
good one though.
machine gun live at the
Cold.
Fillmore
Yeah.
1970
19 cents
machine
cold.
gun, bro.
Cold.
Listen,
That thing
bro.
cold. That cut. Had you heard when the Isley brothers did it on one of their projects, and Ernie he did his Jimi Hendrix rendition. It's pretty good too.
Man, I got to hear that because
Yeah,
I messed with some Ernie too, man. And because Hendrix came, he used to rock with the Isley brothers, man. I mean, yo,
yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
on that alone. See, now you messing my head up. Now I got to
I
hear that.
apologize.
I
Yeah,
got,
you gotta check that. I'm
I
gonna send
got
that
to
to you.
hear that. My
I'm gonna
brother
send it. I'm gonna
on the
send that.
strength. You got to
I
let me check that out.
Brother, I'm gonna send that to you. However, if we after this interview, if you don't mind, I would like to exchange some information. I want you to hear that, and you gonna be
Yeah,
impressed.
man,
Listen,
come on, man, because that's one of my favorite of all time.
yeah,
But
nah.
but
It's
what I
hard to
would
argue
do,
against that.
say that again.
I said it's hard to argue against what you know.
Okay.
It's hard
Yeah,
to
I
argue
see what
against that
you.
though.
Yeah. But I understand about Maggot Brain. Don't get me wrong. That's up there too. That's a super classic.
No
That
doubt.
being said, I would just mimic instruments, just messing around.
Yeah.
And so I didn't try to sound like a particular person. So when I sang,
Mm-hmm.
my point of reference wasn't history of being drawn to you sing the so and so songs. You
Right.
got singers, let's just say the Temptations. And
Mm-hmm.
if you grew up loving the Temptations and you're a singer and you're in these singing groups and all these different groups, well, your name, Bobby, you're going to sing the high stuff that Eddie does. Or
Mm.
you're also going to sing the high stuff that Russell Tompkins does. You know what I'm saying? From the stylistics.
I just interviewed him
I was never really awesome.
two,
Woo!
two days ago. I just interviewed him.
Woo!
I can call him right now, and he'll pick up.
Man, come on, man. Russell, oh my God.
Yeah. We don't play around over here.
Come on, big up, homie.
Thank you.
But the thing is I didn't have that person or persons that I grew up trying to mimic and get my styles. And I became, Steve he's good at blah, 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 blah. So when we do our covers, he's always going to sing this person. You know what I mean? I never had that. So when I went to the mic, it was just a clean slate. All I had was whatever came out. Now,
Wow.
I was influenced by a lot of people, but I didn't really know it until I started doing my thing because I never was the singer. So here's what happens. Just a touch of love hits, boom. And people's like, yo, man, who's this new singer with Slay, man? Man, they say Steve Arrington. Wait a minute, Steve Arrington, the drummer? Yeah, I didn't know what he sang. Nobody did. So it was like that. So I was able to access my emotion and my tone center without having to go through and bypass all these people that were influencing me, that I grew up singing their stuff all the time. That's the best way I can say, other than the super thing is just God gave me something.
That's facts.
You know what I'm saying? He gave me something, and that's what comes out. But there's that other part of it in which I didn't chase anybody when I was formulating who I was as a singer, because I didn't even know that's what I was doing. I never wanted to be the singer. Yeah, I never wanted to be the front guy. I wanted to drive the band. So it's a strange way how it all came to be.
Well, on that first album, there was a huge jump in the sound, and I contribute that to you, to Kurt, to Starlina. And now, you know, like I said, 1979 is Just a Touch of Love project. You got Foxy Lady. That's one of my favorite cuts on there.
What you want to do.
Oh, I love that one, man. I'm talking about, brother, you on the vocals, and you brought, it wasn't just the vocals, you brought a swagger to the band that I felt that they lacked. That was the only thing that they lacked by not having that lead, because a lead vocalist, it takes you to another level when you have the musicianship of a group like Slave, and now you got the drummer that actually have these distinctive vocals. So talk about that. What do you feel? How do you feel as far as how important you feel you guys' legacy was, and what did you realize, like, this was going to be like, we're creating history right here?
We realized, we knew we were something unique. We knew something was serious with us. And Stevie Washington, I'll say again, he was the type of leader who always played to your strengths. So he never pulled you back. He pushed you forward. And he challenged you without challenging you. He challenged you in a way to say, let's do more. Let's take it out further. Hey, Arrington, go on and do that, bro. I didn't come here to sing. I don't know how to lead a band in front of band. So what? Do it anyway. So I'm like, okay, all right. I don't know how to read a crowd or none of that. Okay. So I just watched the other guys we were on tour with. Oh, that's what they do? Okay, you go up and, okay, get closer, lady. Oh, okay. Until I got comfortable being a front man, right?
You basically learned on the go.
On the job.
On the job training.
Yeah, because I was on drums and I could drum and sing. And they said, that's cool. I'm like, I'm getting my buddy Miles on. They're like, nah, man, we gonna need you to come up front. And I'm like, I don't know nothing about being a front man, bro.
Hold on, let me stop. Hold on. I gotta stop you because I've seen a lot of recordings of you guys perform. Mm-hmm. So earlier, were you drumming and singing at the same time, you know, a la Don Henley, Walter Orange? Because I've seen you a lot of times. I know that you're the drummer because you see the credits, but I see you move. I see the way you dance and move. I just see that whole swag from you, man. So when did you transition from being that drummer behind the, just being behind the drums to just, stepping up front and, just pretty much just being the face of Slave and no disrespect?
Well, like I said, on that first tour, the Just a Touch of Love tour, I just watched everybody. Roger Troutman and how he fronted his band. Larry Dotson, how he fronted the Barcades.
Interview him too.
Man, you be getting deep, bro.
Yeah, that's my guy, LD.
Come on, man. Uncle Larry, man, come on with that, bro.
Yeah, I would have thought I could have included them with them Dayton bands. Even though they from Memphis, but they had that.
Yeah, man, the barcades be firing, bro. They be firing on all cylinders for real. So I just watched the greats, Rick James. We be on tour with Rick and those guys, and I watched them until I got comfortable being away from the drums. So for the first part of it, I was a drummer who sang. And then I got more comfortable, and then I was a singer who also played the drums. That had to change in my mind for me to fully embrace all these years I've practiced to be this guy on drums.
Right.
And now I'm still doing it in the studio. Yeah. But when we're going on tour, I'm not playing. And it took a while for me to feel like I wasn't being disloyal, that I was being disloyal to the drums. I mean, I know that sounds crazy.
Now, did you play on Stone Jam? Like, were you still playing? We know you play on the albums, but were you were you playing live? On Stone Jam, or did that start on Touch of Love?
I played live on Stone Jam. By that time, I played live on one song, and then I came off the drums and went up front.
What song was that?
For the rest of the show, Slide.
Okay.
We would open with Slide at that time.
Okay. Yeah, because that's the #1 hit at the time.
Right. Well, but now
I mean, it's 2 years earlier, 1977.
Yeah. So what I mean is, where it used to be the closer.
We talk about this album right here.
Yeah, exactly. By the time we get in the Stone Jam, we could change how we would open. Mm-hmm. Oh, here's what it was. No, I would play drums on Stellar Funk. That's what we would open on. Okay. Let me rephrase that. And I would play drums on that one. Come off the drums. Go to the mic. Roger Parker, who was the original drummer with Faisal and Riding High fame, he then was now the drummer for us on the road. And I drummed on the first song of the set, which was Stellar Funk. And I was able to still get my vibe. I still able to get my drum thing off.
Yeah.
But I went up front, man. And then I started to really dig it. Because I felt confident that, I know what I'm doing. As time went by.
No doubt. So it's, 1980 is here, and you guys are, tearing it up, man. I can only imagine, the scene when you guys come out and perform, man, with these legendary bands. And the Stone Jam project has Feel My Love, Let's Spend Some Time, and the classic Watching You. But again, my sleeper song is that Feel My Love. And I really feel like that Feel My Love. Hey, man, you go in, brother. So talk about that project, that Stone Jam project, because how did you guys top Just a Touch of Love with Stone Jam?
Well, we had a tour behind our belts, right? And we were firing on all cylinders because Kurt and Star now were with us, and we'd been together long enough that the pieces had fully gelled.
Right.
And so when we went into the studio, we was like, ugh, right? And Feel My Love particularly, I remember just feeling that things. There's sometimes you go to the mic, right?
I got you.
And it's like you feel that thing. I used to have my cans really loud. I wanted to hear that. They was like, man, your earphones is too loud, bro. I'm like, not for me. I want to hear it loud.
No doubt.
I would get into these vibes, right? I could swag out on it. And on that song, I did a show in Reno maybe 3-4 years ago at this big birthday party.
Oh, man.
And they said, man,
Ooh.
you gotta do this song. And I'm like, what song is that? They said, you gotta do Feel My Love, bro.
Oh my goodness, man. Whew.
And I hadn't sang that in years. I said,
are you serious?
I'm like,
that is know how to groove.
I'm reaching out to you, honey, you're my only lover. And I was like, okay. And I went into
stop,
that.
bro. Don't stop. Hey, know how to move me. Know how to, oh man, and then Starlina come in with the female vocals.
Come on, Starlina.
Oh man, man. Let me start. I can't get that song out of my head. I've been listening to that song for like the past 3 days, and I've known of the song for 30 years. But
hey, man,
man,
that song that moves me. I've gotten back into it, you know.
Yeah.
Let's see. Hey, feel my love. Come on,
yes,
Bussy. You got me tripping over here now, bro.
Hey, that's the one, man. People, everybody know watching you, but I'm like, man, that Feel My Love, and let's spend some time. The way that album starts off is just ridiculous. Man. It's just nonstop sultry. It seemed like you guys were just in the pocket, man. You guys were just driving that Rolls Royce through the game, man. And it was like, man, this is different. This is different.
And we understood that. And the thing about it is we were having fun together. There was no egos and competitiveness on, well, who's getting the most attention and who's who and all that kind of foolishness. Nothing like that was going on, bro. We was just having a good time, enjoying each other. You know, Adams was like, it was like, dang.
Yeah.
Look at this fool in here, man. It's like we loved it. And Drax just they come out the booth, we'd be like,
hey, let's talk about it. Let's go. You just segue into something that I have to get off my chest. Man, a lot of people talk about Mark Adams. There's Mark Adam Jackson. He deserves all the praise because he's one of the GOATs. But Drac Hicks is a problem on that guitar. So, talk about Mark Drac Hicks a little bit, man. Going into the second project, I believe he left, not the second, but going into Showtime, just right here. Yeah. He left the group. Yeah. But talk about his impact, and because I really feel like a lot of people forget how nasty he was on that guitar.
Well, I'll take you back to when I was in the Bay Area and I heard Slide. And everybody was talking about this new group. And he said, they're just a bunch of kids. And they got this dude on guitar, man. They call him Drac. This dude is out of control with it, man. This dude is crazy with it. And I'm like, and of course they wasn't saying crazy with it at that time. They was like, this dude is slamming.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's his name? And it was Mark Hicks. It was Drac from 6 Period. And that solo on Slide, man, is iconic. It's one of the you ain't heard that long a guitar solo on a single, bro.
Never.
Come on, who does that?
Yeah. Man, only guys that I could put up there. Only guy. Not I can't even say guys. Is Ernie, because a lot of their singles, right? I wouldn't say singles, but these songs were singles, but you didn't hear the guitar part like that. His guitar playing, they kept it for the singles. Yeah. So you're right. I agree with you that his playing on those records was exceptional, and I just wanted you to talk a little bit about what made him so special, man. What was his influence? Did you guys ever have conversations, and did you know what type of music that he liked outside of Slave?
He loved Jimmy and he loved Grand Funk Railroad.
Oh man.
Whew. He loved Jimmy and he loved Grand Funk Railroad from his tone of his. See, the thing about Drac his tone didn't have a bunch of, it didn't sound artificial. You didn't, he used some of the same things. He may use the big muff, but the way he set his amp, you had clean distortion.
Clean distortion, that's the word.
You feel me? His distortion, when his overdrive didn't have a bunch of on it.
Clean.
It was clean, so it sang. It just sang, right? And he's playing these lines, all that kind of stuff. Though the tone is killer. It's like the tone of the great bluesmen who used overdrive. I'm talking about Albert Collins, people like that, who, when they used the overdrive and distortion, it didn't take over. It just helped them sing. Same way with Santana. His overdrive and his distortion, when he kicks it in, it doesn't dominate his fingers. You still hear him, his soul comes through, versus the big muff or whatever taking over. And now that's that. Oh, the effect is what's driving it, not Drake. The effect just helped him to sing, man, on the instrument, man. His tone.
I like how you put that. I like how you put that. And anybody who knows of the greatest guitar players, man, you know, sometimes, you know, I noticed that we leave a lot of the guitar players in rhythm and blues out. We always, you know, mention the Jimmy Pages and these guys and a lot of these rock bands, and no disrespect to those guys. But I feel like, man, we have to start putting some respect on some of these guitar players and rhythm and blues bands such as Drac, man, because him, Ernie, you know, these guys are legends, man, and they could do everything, just like, you know, all these other artists. Nothing that they had no weaknesses. And one thing about Slave, one thing about you guys, and I want to tell you this, you know, face to face, Mr. Arrington. What's really stood out to me about you guys, amongst many other things, is you guys were like a combination of the funk with the horn, the horn bands, but then you had Drac, and you guys did the best of both worlds. You know, you didn't have a lot of times, and a lot of my great funk records, sometimes the guitar get a little lost sometimes. Yeah, and it's okay. It's still a great record, but you guys were able to showcase your drumming, Mark's bass playing, Drac's guitar playing. So talk about that, and how did you guys develop that? Was this something that was purposely done?
Yes, it was. Stevie Washington again. Stevie Washington looked at the strengths of the group, and he like. Drac is back. There's a song, We Got Your Party. There's a song that pass you by. Anyway, I can't think of the name of it right now.
That's on I know what you're talking about. That's on the concept album. I forgot the name of the song.
But it's the same song we do twice.
Right.
One is with the vocal, and the other one is Drac soloing through the whole song.
Yeah. I be trying to tell people, man, hey, Drac was a problem, man. He was nothing to play with. He was nothing to play with on that guitar.
Made sure people heard Drac. So we did that song, and the song is dope as a vocal song. But then we just used the background vocals, and Drac just he soloed through all of it. The bridge, the A sections, he soloed through the whole thing. And then you hear the same song with vocals on it. That was a different thing. And that's what I dug about Stevie. He would make sure the strengths of the band always was in your face. And so Drac was given the respect that he deserved as being a great lead guitar player. Now, his rhythm thing was crazy too. Danny's rhythm thing was crazy, and Danny played the pin part. I go to love those melodies. You just go, oh man, that's just nice, man.
Right.
Slave was a band full of people who had their own sound. And then we brought all that together because Danny was the original. Everybody had their own sound.
No doubt, no doubt.
And then
So
we brought it together and it made this, as they said, the Midwest music monster.
Hey, y'all,
You know what I'm saying?
man, I don't know what was it, man, coming out of Dayton, man. Like it just seemed like you guys were just hitting from all cylinders, man, from Ohio players and Fazo. A lot of people forget about Fazo
Come on now.
Yeah, man, and Heat Wave. I forget that Heat Wave they're from Dayton because they got all these other guys from all over the world, but the Wilder brothers are from Dayton.
That's right. That's right.
So talk. I have to talk about this album, man. I'm not gonna go through every project, but I have to talk about this particular album right here because to me, this is the greatest Slave album, man. No disrespect to the other two, but this one right here, this is right. In my opinion, I'm sorry, you guys put it all together. I hate to say you guys put it all together because you did it on the set on Just a Touch of Love and Stone Jam, but this one right here, I gotta show it one more time. I gotta show this thing one more time. Y'all brothers looking dapper too, man. Look at my man Steve. looking dapper, man. So this one right here, brother, Spice of Life, Wait for Me, Steal Your Heart, For the Love of You, brother, you were in another stratosphere on this project. What happened? Like, brother, I don't understand. You took it to another level. When we thinking, man, you can't top Stone Jam. How you gonna top that? And then you come on, talk about it, brother.
Well, the great Stevie Washington, Starlina Young, Kurt Jones, and Tom Lockett decided to leave the group and formed Aura. Now, we had done an album together on Aura's first album as a part of Slave, and we were doing in a way that P-Funk did. P-Funk had the Brides, the Parlettes, but they were still a part of the whole P-Funk family.
Oh, like the Fred Wesley and the Horny Horns.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what we were going to do with Slave. There was so much talent. So we started out and we did the Aura album number 1, right? Which was just called Aura.
The self-titled, yep.
Yes, sir. So then, we did our things, the Stone Jam album, and Stevie, Kurt, and Star decided, and Kurt, and I should say, and Tom Lockett, they decided they wanted to keep the Aura thing going as a true band and not as a planet that was revolving around the sun Slave, right? So that was like a big blow because Stevie was the leader of the group. So then Mark Adams became the leader of the group, voted him in, and we knew that we just made a funk classic. We got to come hard because Stevie and those guys, not only did they leave, but he was the leader of the group and the visionary of the group. And we just said, hey, man, you know what?
I got to show it one more time, man. I got to show this one more time, man. This one. And let's not forget about this one. This is a classic as well.
But now that album cover, Floyd Miller did that whole sketch himself. That whole In the Sky band playing in the sky.
Oh, okay.
On Showtime.
Oh, okay, right.
Floyd Miller did that. Floyd Miller did that whole thing. Turned it in Atlanta. It was like, you did this? Wow. And that became the album cover. So right away, the creativity to do something special had already kicked in. Floyd showed us that we was like, oh, Floyd, that's crazy. We flying in the sky in this shell. That's what we doing now. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So we brought the strings in and everything, bro.
Yeah.
Like on Wait for Me and all that. You hear the strings?
I love that one right there, man. That one right. Wait for Me. I'm telling you, that album, man, there's not a dud on there, man. There's not a you guys didn't waste no, there's not no room for error on that project. And you guys from beginning to end, what can I say?
Man, let me tell you. We had so much fun making that record, Party Lights. I remember we'd be in rehearsal when we came up with Party Lights, and we went into the intro, and I went, I told you they was jamming. And Adam,
Yeah.
and I remember in rehearsal, I remember being on John's going, man, this is funky.
Man, talk about that still your heart though, man. Talk about that one right there. With a lot of people, that's still your heart. Oh my.
Adams, that bass line Adams came up with.
Oh man.
Yo, man. We loved making that record. And you know what? Stevie and those guys heard that album like, man, that was crazy. And we dug their stuff too. Are You Single and all that?
Oh yeah, Are You Single?
We dug all that stuff they were doing too, right?
Yeah.
But hey, man, we was like, yo, we got to keep this going, bro. So that Showtime record, man, I'm proud of that joint, man.
What's your favorite slave project that you've been a part of?
It depends on what mood I'm in.
I got you.
I love the work we did together. I go through phases with it. Sometimes I'll just play Shine all day.
Just a Touch of Love.
Yeah, just Shine is like, that's a crazy joint. You know what I'm saying?
And then, thank you. And thank you. I like that. Thank you on there too.
Yes. Yo, man. I loved what we had together. And I so love to talk about it because we were so young, and yet at the same time, we had the respect of people like Earth, Wind, and Fire and the players, people that we looked up to. They was feeling us, you know what I'm saying? But what sticks out about that time for me the most is the times we would be in rehearsal, making the stuff up or doing it, and we look at each other when we knew like, oh, there is there, bro. And we look at each other, man. And having so much fun.
Hold on, it broke up. It broke up. Could you say that again? Because it broke up. I apologize.
Okay. What stood out for me so much at that time, as I think more about it, is when we would rehearse and we're bringing this stuff together, whether it's the writing part or getting ready for the live shows, is when we would click, and you'd click. It's almost like when you kick in and like, we in that zone now. And we'd look at each other and appreciate what we all brought to the blend. And we'd look at each other and be excited to play together, excited to sing together. That's what I remember most. That's what I smile about most, is the fact we loved playing together. That unit loved being that unit.
I can tell.
And I hear the inspiration of the records, and I remember how they came about and how it ended up with Change the Bridge and didn't go with the original. You know what I mean? All those types of things.
Talk about they're watching you. How did you guys come up with that one? Because everybody who's watching this interview, they want to know about watching you. So I have to bring that up. I have to.
Well, it first came in with walking in the park.
Okay.
Walking in the park, watching ladies watching you. That's how it first started. And
I'm glad y'all
remember,
changed that.
I remember walking in the park, walking down the street. They was like, yeah, walking down the street, yeah. Again, we knew the track was crazy. By that time, I've done Just a Touch of Love album. I've been on the road. I'm coming into the studio as a lead singer now.
No doubt.
You know what I mean? So when we hit that track, I come in firing, man. You know, I'm now I got a nickname now, the Invade now, right? So I'm like invade mode. I'm in invade mode. I'm coming in at an angle on them, bro. You feel me?
No doubt.
And so they're like, do your thing, and they let me go, and I'm doing more ornate things now vocally, because I don't have any restraints. They're like, just do you, bro. We feeling it. And so I opened up on Watching You, whereas Just a Touch of Love, the tone and the diction and the perspective of the intervals are there. But in Watching You is when I start to take off and start moving outside of the chords, and just, I'm moving. I'm doing invade. I'm diving.
Yeah.
So it's like we having a good time. We loved playing together and inspired by the music. And so what we did for each other is encouraged each other to find the center of we led each other to those chambers in our emotions that we could get out, because this unit pushed you to go in and get that ooh-wee. That's what I call it. I call it the ooh-wee. Man, I'm on that. I'm like, looking at it's a whole thing where I'm in the booth going, looking at the ladies. I'm there. It's not a recording session. It's not. It's not that.
You can see it. You can see you.
There you go. Exactly.
Woo! You can see what you're singing. I get it.
So I'm
I vicariously lived through that song.
Oh man.
like I could just go back to like 1980, man. I could just and then watching you perform there, like I was, I'm born in 78, so I it's not like I remember that, but it's almost like you take me back to that time where it feels like I wasn't 2 years old. I was 20 years old. And that's what you guys' music is so timeless.
Wow.
It transcends time, man. I feel like I was there. I feel like I was there. I was watching the ladies with the Sassoon jeans, with the 78 Chevy Impalas or whatever. It, like, you guys' music just take me back and just, it's amazing
that's awesome,
how music.
Man. That's awesome.
Nah. So look, eventually. That's the thing. Go ahead.
No. I was just saying, we brought that thing out of each other, and we weren't competitive with it. Mark could be freely who he was. Right. Drac could be freely who he was. There was nothing that made you, I can't do that or else. There was nothing about it that make you, man, I got to somehow curb my swag. You know what I mean? There's none of that. It was like, man, you better go and handle your business, bro. Quit playing. You know what's up.
I know that's right. So look, so here we go. Now, I was about to say, I hear everything that you're saying. I appreciate all this story of these classic albums. But, after 1981, after that Showtime project, you lead to start Hall of Fame, I believe, in 82, early 83. And I love Hall of Fame, man. So talk about what was that transition like, leaving the group in 81 and putting together Steve Arrington Hall of Fame with, a lot of people don't know, Kevin Eubanks was in that band.
Well, let me say this. After the first album with Slave, real fans know the lineup always changed. There was always new people coming and going. But for the longest time, it kept getting better. The new people added, right?
Right.
But we weren't growing in our business. Remember, the group started, those guys were 15 and 16 years old. They did slide when they were 15, but it came out when they were 16. But it was done, they were still 15 years old. That being said, there's contracts that were signed, and I never was an actual member of Slave. I was a sideman. I never was under contract with the group. That's another thing on how I ended up being the primary lead singer and one of the primary writers is beyond me. But that being said, when Stevie and those guys left, that was a crack in the armor because we were able to survive musically, but that was the leadership, that was the vision, that was who we trusted. That now was gone. So now you have to build this whole infrastructure of how we were going to go on, which wasn't easy because Stevie was the one who knew all that instinctively and had the connections. So if nobody was groomed, nobody saw that coming that they would leave. So we had to pick up the pieces. We just couldn't pick them all up. We picked up a lot of them, but we didn't pick up all of them. And it started to pull us because we did not have the right way in which to go forward without Stevie.
Right.
And I was never a part of the actual band. So there was some decisions that were made I wasn't a part of. Now, not that they didn't make me feel like a part of the band, they did. Right. And they gave me all kinds of room, but our business didn't really reflect it. You feel me? Our business didn't reflect it. And there was things that were signed when very young that they still had to, walk out. And that's why Stevie, Kurt Starr, and Lockett left. I didn't know that at first. So what happened? What happened was what happens to a lot of Black units and Black artists. The business thing got us. And so when Stevie and those guys left, we went on for another album. But we never recovered from that because he was the person that we trusted, and he's the one who knew what time it was. Rest of us didn't. But
it sure couldn't sell in the music because in the music, man, you guys, like I said, in my opinion, that's my favorite Slave album. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Now we could, like I said, there's a lot that goes into something that's great. There's a difference between great and good. And it's a big difference.
Huge difference, yeah.
So we didn't have the great structure to stand alongside the greatness of the unit. We were never able to get that together. So there was always people coming and going. There was always managers coming and going. It was never stable. And what ended up happening, it eventually it was so unstable, it just started to crack and crack and crack. But me as a lead singer, I never wanted to leave Slave. I never had this lead singer. Well, I'm lead singer. I'm going to do my own thing. That's not how it went at all. We were just fractured. And I said, well, then I'm gonna go ahead and do this over here, man, and start anew. But I never wanted to leave Slave, and it hurt that I did.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
we
man.
were fractured, and this is, as you saw the group as it continued on, it fractured more
Fraction
and
more.
more
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
more and more and more.
So talk about your time with Slave, as far as what's some of the most memorable moments that you remember, during that 78 to 1981 period.
Here's one. We had just finished Stellar Funk, right? We're at Atlantic Studio A, state of the art, one of the best sound systems in the world. This is Atlantic Records, okay? Studio A. Finished mixing Stellar. Jimmy Douglas puts it on the big speakers, right? And he's killing the volume. And we're sitting up there just stank faced, like, oh my, you hear that, bro?
Yeah.
And then Arif Martin walks into the studio, who's a producer.
Hold on, time out. You talk about the average white band's producer, Aretha Franklin. I could go on and on, man. Continue, brother. That's a moment right there. I like the fans. What you're listening to is history right here. So pay attention. Continue, brother.
Arif Martin comes into the studio and is like, oh, what? He comes back. He leaves and comes back. And there is Mick Jagger with him.
Good night.
And he's like, play that joint again. You just play for me. Jimmy looks around and he goes, hey, Mick. And I'm going, man, that's Jagger, man. So Jimmy's got it cranked, right? And shut the bomb. You know how it comes in.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What I'm about to tell you is a true story. Okay.
Let's go.
It kicks in, it's bumping, and we just groove it. And the next thing you know, Mick Jagger jumps up and goes in the full Mick Jagger mode right there in the middle of the studio in front of all of us. He goes in the full-blown Mick Jagger dancing stage mode, and we going, Jagger going crazy off of Stellar, bro.
Like only he can.
Man, let me tell you something. He went buck wild, bro. And we just like, Jagger is feeling us like that. I'm talking about full on. And Arif just stood there and smiled.
Yeah.
Man, that was a moment.
Man, so this right there, I take it, man. You guys felt you arrived when that happened. No question.
Because I mean, Jagger, if he had just did this, like, I like that.
Yeah.
I'd have been cool. We'd have been cool with that. This dude jumps up and goes full on Mick Jagger through the whole song, bro.
Man, that's crazy. That's a very interesting story, man. Not just Mick Jagger, but Arif Martin. He brought him there. Like that's one guy that's a legend, and he's bringing another legend, and they both feeling what you guys are putting out.
Right. He's like, you got to hear this. Mm-hmm. He brings Mick in there, and Mick goes crazy.
Yeah.
Another amazing moment when Dayton gave us the key to the city.
Okay. Now this around what time was this?
That was right. That was Stone Jam, the Stone Jam album. Okay. They gave us the key to the city. Yeah.
Yeah, man. You guys kind of like what I noticed, it seemed like when the Ohio players was kind of winding down a little bit, man. It's like you guys took that baton and just ran with it, man. But you know, that I swear, man, you guys are the most distinctive band of all time, man.
Oh, man.
Definitely in my top five. I'll easily in the top five. And from the you
man, that means a lot because I mean, you know, some of my brothers are gone.
Yeah,
They're
rest in
gone.
peace, Mark.
Yes, they're gone, bro.
Yeah,
And as we're talking about this, I'm like, you know, my brothers, man, I know you hear us down here having fun talking about you. And this music will live on, man. You know, long
yeah,
after
yeah.
I'm gone and the rest of us, somebody will be like, what? What
Yeah.
is this? You know, and just like I do with Thelonious Monk, you know,
Oh, yeah,
with Miles. It's like,
no doubt.
what?
What is this?
Yeah, you know, you pass it down.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was just so happy that a part of my life I could pass down. A part of that was with them.
hmm hmm So
That
let's go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, that's what I was gonna say.
No doubt. Rest in peace. You know, Mark Adams. You know, rest in peace, Drac. You know, Drac Hicks, and
That's it.
we just lost Danny last year.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's fast forward a little bit, man.
Okay.
I gotta talk about, you know, Steve Arrington's Hall of Fame, man.
Okay.
So how did you come up with that name, and again, how was that what was that transition like, you know, going through that period of, you know, like, man, I just left something that was just great, and now what am I going to do next?
Well, it was tough because we were friends and I didn't really want to go. But the easy part of it being tough was the fact that I had done the Escovedo thing prior to Slave. So I thought and still do think more like a jazz musician.
Mm,
Jazz musicians play with a lot of different people. They
right.
can still be in a one band and still do projects with different people.
hmm
Or they'll line up for a while and Weather Report will be Zawinul and Wayne Shorter, you know, Joe Zawinul, and they hook up. They'll have Alfonso Johnson on bass, and then there's Jaco Pastorius.
Jocko.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, so jazz musicians tend to network more within their ranks.
Okay.
So it because I came out of that before joining Slave,
hmm
because Carlos Santana was the featured soloist when I was playing with Pete and Sheila Escovedo. He left his band for a while and just wanted to play some straight ahead salsa. He goes back to Santana and continues to do the Santana thing.
hmm
Well, for me, when I'm like, I have to make this decision, it wasn't as hard from the musicality side because I thought like a jazz musician. I know if I get these people, then I'm able to execute this sound that I hear or this style that I want to do or this vibe.
hmm
That was more of the easier part of it because I got some people who were also sidemen with me from Slave
Okay.
and added some other pieces to it. Kevin Eubanks did the album, and he was with us for a minute, but he was a jazz man. He
And we
was like
talk about the Kevin Eubanks from the Tonight Show,
the
if folks
Tonight
don't
Show.
know. Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm like, Kevin, yeah, I feel you. Do your thing, man. What you brought to this project is incredible. He went
hmm
on to do his jazz music, and he went on to Jay Leno fame as
No
the
doubt.
band leader.
Band leader. Yeah.
And they would rock Weak in the Knees a lot on that show. I get,
They
man,
did. Yeah.
you hitting Weak in the Knees again, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's get into that. Let's get into this first Steve Arrington in the Hall of Fame album right here.
Mhm.
I was looking for my vinyl. It's somewhere upstairs, man. I can't find it, so I had to bring the CD. Sorry.
Yeah,
It's the best I can
that's cool. Hey,
do.
yo, we made that album at Boogie Hotel in New York, a lot of it, which is where Blue Oyster Cult recorded.
Mm,
And then we did some of this album in Atlantic Studios. just like we did the slave records.
Okay.
Jimmy Douglas also co-produced it with myself and Charles Carter.
Okay.
And the way we came up with the name, we was looking for a name, and he's like, "Man, what about Steve Arrington's Hall of Fame?" I'm like, "I like that." Charles Carter. It's like, "What about Steve Arrington's Hall of Fame?" I'm like, "Man, that's crazy. I like that." So C.Dale Carter came up with the name.
I like that.
He was my right-hand man.
Okay.
And he co-produced with me along with Jimmy Douglas. The thing about Slave, the difference between the two units, one is I was able to open up other chambers of what I did. For instance, you take a song like Betty Bye that was sampled by Tribe Called Quest on the song Chase.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I couldn't have done that kind of record with Slave.
Yeah.
That's more jazzy, but it's not just jazzy, not just jazz chords. The whole melodic structure of it was not the kind of thing you would have done on a Slave album.
No doubt.
And things like You Meet My Approval, it's funky, but it's more stripped down than the Slave records. It's more open. It's more open space in the middle.
Yeah.
It's more drummer driven, less bass driven as Slave, but yet dirty and nasty. But it doesn't have the Mark Adams dance.
Yeah.
The bass player stays home more, and the concoction of the groove itself becomes more of the main character than with Slave. The characters revolved around the bass. Steve Arrington's Hall of Fame, the character didn't revolve around the bass. The rhythm section became the character, how they played together. And Buddy Hankerson, who played bass, was a killer bass player.
I forget that Buddy was on that.
Yeah, Buddy's a bad boy. But, there's only one Mark Adams. So I tell bass players all the time when they play with me, man, I said, listen, don't you give me a sting or two, you give me a little of that, be you, man, because if you think you're gonna come up here and mimic Mark Adams, that's not gonna happen, bro.
Not gonna happen. It's only one.
Exactly.
It's only one.
I got cats who do themselves. I'll put us on the right street, but when we get there, be you.
No doubt.
Again, thinking like a jazz musician, because I don't want you to wear. When I do Slave music, I do Slave music as this was a part of a whole. Right. It's not the whole. It's a part of the whole. So I approach it in a way that I might come at it really different tonight, so that people had something that night that you'll never have that way again.
Gotcha.
I'll take liberties. A lot of times I'll do the vocal thing like the record, and then do some switching up arrangement style. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, not just to keep it fresh, because I love singing and playing the music. It's just I might feel it different that way that night and implement certain things. That being said, hey, man, when you get into Weak in the Knees now,
let's talk about it.
Singing style changes. Because in Slave, it was much more melodic, and Weak in the Knees is it's more riding inside the pocket.
Now, why was that? On top. Why was that? Because I noticed, like you said, I noticed the change. Why was that?
Because I was able to do more of what I wanted to do versus have to keep the Slave formula intact.
Gotcha.
Even though we always developed it, but we didn't develop it at that point where I'm just riding a track from down in here versus riding it up here.
Gotcha.
dancing across the top of it. Weak
Yeah.
in the knees ain't dancing across the top. Weak in the knees is getting down in the trenches down, and I'm
Yeah.
looking at it from in here, right? And so it's much more wordier than the other songs of Slave. Come
Yeah.
on, we gonna jam. Come on, I mean, it's just all over the place, but
Yeah.
it's still down in here like this.
Mm.
That song I never could have made in Slave, because what that brought out of me was more of the sing-songy style that I
Right.
have.
Okay.
Weak in the Knees is that, and then Betty Bye is more of a Thelonious Monk type of angular. Do-do-dee, do-do-dee, do-do-dee. Those aren't melodies that I was using in Slave.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I guess you could say I was able to access more of who I was in Hall of Fame. Way Out, for instance, the whole intros, the whole vocal intro, I then moved that to the band. So when you hear the band come in, they're actually playing what I don't, right?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. I started in Slave at the end of Roots, or doing stuff like that. But I evolved it to where I would just do whole parts vocally and then give the parts to the band, and they're playing what I just did vocally, like on Way Out. So there was Steve Arrington's Hall of Fame was able to launch out more in my identity as an artist. So I'd say that would be the main thing, along with it was more a little more bluesier.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little bit more bluesier sound to it. Like Foxy Lady was a more bluesier sound in the mix of Slave at that time. This had a more bluesier edge to it.
No doubt.
Than the Slave records, I think.
No, I agree, man. I mean, you follow that up with, like I said, Way Out, Nobody Can Be You But You, and these songs are like classics, man. Even when you did your solo project. But I want to go back to that Weak in the Knees. Jay-Z sampled that back in 1998 for his money anything. Him and I believe Jermaine Dupri. So what was that like, man? Having them sample that song and kind of like reinventing it, allowing new listeners who weren't old enough to hear that type of production.
I loved it, man. I loved it. And they put a little bell to it. Ding, 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 ding. They added that to it to make it turn over a little more for the hip hop. I dug how they did that too. I love the people who, NWA used it and went to Gangsta, there's actually remixes out there, Weak in the Knees, that people like Snoop has done.
Snoop did one. I don't think this is Weak in the Knees, but it's one that I think Watching You. He does something from Watching You.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
He does. He uses the hook and
walking down the street,
smoking Endo,
gin and juice. How could I forget that? That's my era right there. I'm ashamed. I should not forget that song. But yeah, he used that. How was that getting? What was that feeling like, hearing that? Like, man, he's using our thing.
I loved it, man. I love the whole West Coast G-Funk. He did Let's Get On, use the melody from Watching You in the verse melody on Let's Get Blown.
Forgot about that
when
one.
the sampling came in and you heard people's say, for instance, Brand Nubians did Nobody Can Be You But You. They flipped that. And I dug it because they were trying to continue to do unique things using the tools of their generation. I was with it,
So how do you feel about hip hop, sampling a lot of music from the past, because I know you work with a lot of hip hop artists. You just recently you worked a while back. It's really not even that long ago. You worked with Snoop and Damn Funk.
Yeah.
You know, and that song right there, man, I swear you sound like you ain't miss a beat, brother. What was that like? And again, you know, what do you think about the hip hop coming into you know, today's, you know, pretty much dominating today's music, you know?
Excuse me. I just I just see it as I got a little crook
It's okay.
Crook in my throat right quick.
I'm gonna edit this. Yeah, I'm gonna edit this.
Okay. Okay. I got this like little scratch on my. Hey Leslie, can you give me some water?
I'm gonna just edit. All of this is being edited. Look at the time.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Just let me know when you're ready to go. And I'm gonna ask the question from the beginning. I'm gonna ask the question.
Yeah, okay, I'm back.
There we go. Okay. So look, you know, you work with a lot of hip hop artists, and a lot of artists have been paying homage to Slave, to your solo work. What do you feel about the hip hop community, and how do you feel about a lot of these artists sampling a lot of your music?
I really dig it. You know, I dug Jay-Z's Money Ain't a Thing. I dug NWA, how they did Gangsta Gangsta with Weak in the Knees. And, you know, in Straight Outta Compton, you know, I didn't know that Ice Cube had did his first freestyle off of Weak in the Knees. So I call myself a music adventurist. So I try to always take in as much music as I can, diversity in styles and all of that. So when sampling started to really kick in, it was problematic at first because the industry hadn't caught up with the actual musicians and the tools of choice. So once the industry caught up and you were actually getting paid off the samples, then there was no issue at all. I looked at it as if when you buy a synthesizer, the patches are already made. You can get into some work in which you can customize patches and even learn synthesis and make up your own with, you know, sine waves and the different waveforms, sawtooths, whatnot.
Right.
But
software, all type of software and stuff.
You hit a synth, those patches, somebody made those patches. So you're playing someone else's perspective on sound. And that's how I looked at hip hop. They took the patches that were already made through the music, through these songs, and flipped it and made their own sound out of it, made their own songs out of it. Since I'm getting paid off of that, I'm all for that 100%. And I'm enjoying how they use the tools of their time to do what they felt was cool for what they heard. No different than cats who went electric. You have some people who played acoustic instruments that got upset when Miles Davis went electric.
When Bitches Brew and all that stuff, they hated that stuff.
Yep, you're right, bro. So that's part of evolution and growth. You can't tell young people they don't have the right to see it and hear it their way. It may not resemble what you would do at all. Or they take your patches and say, instead of the synth, we're going to take an MPC and I'm going to flip these samples and come up with something new off of it. I get it. Just make sure I get paid off of it.
No doubt.
But the art form itself Shoot, the great Mad Lib people like that.
Man, legend.
Jay
He's dope.
Dilla, that's who.
Jay Dilla,
Man,
yeah.
come on, man.
Hey, you tapped in, brother. You naming me. That's them my favorite producers right there, hip hop producers.
Come on, man. Diamond D, cats
Diamond
like that.
D,
Come on,
yeah.
man.
DJ Premier, Pete
Come
Rock.
on, Pete Rock.
Yeah,
I mess with all that, man. I tell you a beat that really got me, man. That audio too, man. That
top
billing joint.
Top billing, yeah. What more can I? Yeah.
I still know it.
Yeah.
MCs that's down with me.
Yeah. I'm trying to get them on the platform. It's gonna happen, man. But I'm a huge fan of audio.
Milk is chilling. Gizmo's chilling.
What more can I say?
Top billing. Oh man.
Yeah, man. I love it. So look. Here we are, in 2021, we don't have a lot of bands, man. Mm-hmm. And, one thing about, when I think about your music and I think about your contributions, I think about the great musicianship, whether it's your solo career, whether it's Slade, whether it's the Hall of Fame. And, I don't hear a lot of that as far as being at the forefront of music today. So what is your take on that? How do you feel?
Well, there's a resurgence that's happening. Thundercat just won the progressive R&B album of the year on It Is What It Is.
And you was on that.
Black Walls.
Yeah. So hold up. So you get yours too for that then.
Hey man, I'm up in that mix, bro.
Yeah. Talk about it.
I co-wrote the first single, man. Off that album.
Man, when y'all check, whenever folks get a chance, they need to check out That Is What It Is. That album is cold and got Childish Gambino on that thing too.
Yeah, they do, bro. Getting mad, man.
Getting busy. Yeah. So
cats like that who are getting busy. Flying Lotus, cats like that.
Woo.
Mind Design, cats that I really dig. So I'm connecting with those brothers as well. Mm-hmm. Kareem Riggins, me and Kareem, we're talking about doing a project right now. And I've worked with him before. But yeah, man, I did some stuff with Madlib and MED.
And that's Snoop. You did one with Uncle Snoop.
Yeah, man. One question, man. One question.
That one question is a smoker.
Hey, man. Dane Funk. Big ups, man. Big ups to Dane.
Dane. 7 days of funk, man.
7 days, man. Yeah. And we did our album Higher, So, my whole thing is I just keep wanting to challenge myself without saying it, meaning just following my heart.
I got you.
And I love different styles of music. I love if it's sampled. It doesn't matter to me. If it's good, I'm down. I'm with it. I've done a lot of cool collabs, like the Thundercat collab.
Let me stop you for a second. What is the backstory on that? Because that caught me off guard. Like Steve Arrington and Thundercat, like, man, like this brother is really tapped in. Like I heard what you did on that one question, but now you're linking with Thundercat too. Talk about that.
Well, I met Thundercat at a DJ Quick show. DJ Quick had invited me to do a guest appearance on one of his shows that he used to do on the west side of LA. I forgot the venue. Mm-hmm. But he invited me to come down and do Week in the Knees as a guest appearance. Okay. When I went down there to do that, just my man Thundercat was backstage, only I didn't know who he was.
Okay.
And we talked to blah, blah, blah a little bit. Then further down the line, this is years later now, because this was about this was '09. This is 2010. At this time now, I started to find out about Flying Lotus. And then I heard the Cosmogramma album. And I heard this bass player I'm just like, who is that? Some dude Thundercat. So I said, well, whoever that is, I'm getting ready to watch him. So I told everybody I was in earshot, this dude Flying Lotus, we need to rock. You need to listen to him. This dude Thundercat. As a matter of fact, I found out Flying Lotus is the nephew of Alice Coltrane. So that John Coltrane is his uncle. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, we gotta be checking out Madlib. You gotta be checking out Dilla. You gotta be checking out Lotus, this kid, Thundercat. And I'm telling everybody, you need to check these people out. Boom, 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 boom. And I was like, who I'd really like to work with Lotus, man. Do you know 10 years later, Thundercat calls me up on the phone out of nowhere. Says, man, do you want to work on a track with me, man? Would you want to do that? I'm like, man, first of all, man, I've been talking about you for 10 years, bro. You were Loaded folk. So I jump on the joint. They send me the track and I send it back. Like, oh my goodness, this is way gonna work.
Right.
Steve Lacy's on the joint. He's doing his thing. So then it takes off, right? The next thing I know, we on Jimmy Kimmel Live, the Steves, Steve Thundercat Broner, Steve Lacy, Steve Arrington, and Steve Ellison, who is his stage name is Flying Lotus. Now, I wanted to work with these people 10 years earlier.
Right.
And out of nowhere, that happens. Because I was just into it. And the fact that I've been doing this for many years doesn't stop me from enjoying and hearing something fresh and new and telling people, man, this is that fresh new ooh-wee, bro. I'm telling you. And then the next thing you know, I become a part of it. Same thing with Kareem Riggins. He was so close with Dilla. But then Kareem was also playing drums with Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
He also was playing with Dinah Krall. But he's a bomb producer. And so for me, those things and how these people we've come together is a wonderful thing. I've been signed to Stone's Throw. So I've done music on Stone's Throw.
Yeah, talk about that. Talk about you just you released your latest. You just released 2 singles last year. The Joys of Love, which is fire. I love that one, man. And that Keep Dreaming. Talk about that. Talk about what inspires you to just continue to release music and release music that's aesthetically pleasing to the ears, man. Because when people talk about ageism, I don't see it when it comes to artists like yourself, brother. You still sound as fresh as you did back in 1980, 81, whatever.
Oh man, that means a lot, bro, because I love this, man. I mean, I have to talk in a humble tone about this part of it because my heroes are people like Buddy Guy, who are in his 80s. He's in his 80s, just killing it. And I want to be that. When I was 16 years old, I went and saw Hot Tuna, which is an offshoot of Jefferson Airplane, when the original Jefferson Airplane, when they weren't on tour. Okay. They're called Hot Tuna. They had a violin player named Papa John Creech. Papa John Cooch, I thought was in his 40s, but he was really in his 50s. I was right in front row, and I said, I was 16. I said, I want to be like that guy one day. This dude is playing with these white rock musicians. He's in his 40s. In my mind, they was all in their 20s, and he's killing it. We're all out there going, Papa John, because we couldn't believe this older dude was killing it with all these young heads. I want to be that when I grow up. I want to be the guy that gets it. And I said that when I was 16 years old. And that's what's ended up happening. I'm like Papa John Creech now.
Yeah, man. You the go-to guy, man. You've collaborated with everybody, man.
So, I asked for that when I was 16 years old. And so, this is an honor for me. People, man, we love what you do. And I love what you do. Bruh, this music thing, I believe with all my heart, that's why I've been put on this earth. And I want to show it respect, and those who make it respect.
No doubt.
It's not a competitive place for me. I challenge myself, but I love to hear people do their thing, man. I love to hear people do some stuff that I'm like, yo, man, you meant that. I felt that, bro. I don't care if it's Howlin' Wolf. I don't care if it's Stravinsky. I don't care if it's Prince, James Brown. I don't care if it's Yes. I don't care if it's Joni Mitchell. I don't care if it's Coco Taylor. I don't care about none of that. If it's hitting and I feel you, I'm in, bro.
I know that's right.
I don't care, man. So that's why I say I call myself a music adventurist. And so there's music out there now that is cats who playing. Thundercat is a good example. That man, his band, them boys play for real. Anderson Paak, cats like that, getting busy, touring with bands. You know what I'm saying?
Terrace Martin, I love him, man.
Come on, man.
Terrace Martin is dope. Robert Glasper.
Come on, Daddy Dave and them, man.
Daddy Dave, yeah.
Man, I rock with him.
Gary Clark, I can go on.
Yeah, man. Come on, bro.
Yeah, man. But they all look up to you though. Like at the end of the day, man, all these artists have been inspired by something that you have done, and how does that feel to be now the guy who was looking up to guys, and now these artists that are carving out their own lanes, now they're paying homage to you. They're realizing of the guys that came before them, such as yourself.
It's a wonderful thing for me, man. It's a wonderful thing. If Sly Stone walked in my house right now, man, I would be bugging out, man. I'm like, come on, man. First of all, Sly, man, thank you.
Yeah.
Secondly, come on, man. Thank you for letting me be myself. Okay. Are you serious, man? You feel me?
I want to take you higher.
Come on, bro.
If you want me to stay.
There you go. That's how it works, man. You pass it down. You pass it down. And the fact that the young brothers like, we rocking with you, Invade. Man, that means everything to me, man. That means everything to me. Because they have my respect. I'm like, yo, bro, Lotus. Cosmogramma album is insane. I never heard anything like it before, man. You carved some new territory, bro.
It's like a 20 2020 version of like Return to Forever, or like it's crazy.
Oh, it is, isn't it? And
Yeah,
the stuff Mad Libs, like Quasimodo and all this. I'm like, you got the Quartet series, then you got the
yeah,
Indian series, and it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
what?
Yeah, man, you're definitely tapped in, Steve. You definitely tapped in, because them the type of artists and producers that I listen to, and you don't hear them on the radio. You don't hear none of their songs on the radio. But if you tapped in to these guys who really love the culture, and not just a hip hop culture. These guys love music. They love music. They love rhythm and blues, rock, jazz, classical. They the whole spectrum.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So look, I want to shift gears again. I
Okay.
have, before we get out of here, because I know
Okay.
we would go. This has been a moment for me, but I can't leave without asking this question.
Okay.
In 1996, this artist, he released his cover version of "Just a Touch of Love," and a lot of people say that he got his style from you, and I'm talking about Keith Sweat. And how did you feel about that? And have those murmurs ever got in your vicinity as far as Keith emulating you?
Yes, it has, and I applaud his work for what he's done, because your influences are your influences.
It is, yeah.
And the fact that I would be one of his influences, that's a wonderful thing. I mean, he's done great music. I've never met Keith.
No way.
Nope, I haven't.
Now, do you know of his "Just a Touch of Love"?
Yeah. I like his rendition of it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I like this music like from day one.
Right.
For this first track, Teddy and them dropped.
I want her, and
I wanna
yeah.
do. Yeah, man, I was with it from the beginning.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and all that whole guy thing, just all that whole thing. I dug all of that.
Yeah.
Because I enjoy change.
Mm-hmm.
I dig change.
Yeah.
Like right now, people say, "Who are you listening to?" I'm like, Blackpink. Blackpink. I'm like, yeah, this is a Korean K-pop female group, Blackpink.
Now my niece is into that K-pop now. That right there. Now I'm oblivious to that, but my niece is heavy into that K-pop. So continue.
Man, Blackpink, man.
Yeah.
I mess with Blackpink. BTS, I like them too, but Blackpink, I'm really messing with Blackpink.
Okay, I'm gonna check it out.
But that's in the midst of. I'm also listening to Leadbelly, the Yellow Gal. You feel me? I'm also listening to Tchaikovsky's Second Symphony.
Whew, man.
I
was talking to Chris Jasper from the Isley Brothers. I interviewed him last week, and he was telling me of how much classical music influenced their sound. You hear a lot of the arrangements and the strings and things of that nature. So that that stood out to me when you mentioned him.
Oh, absolutely, man, absolutely. I love some Hank Williams Sr. Hank Williams Jr. I don't mess with too much, but Hank Williams Sr.
Bad, yeah.
Hey, good looking what? I mess with that, bro.
Yeah,
I mess with that. I mess with it, bro. Oh, some Johnny Cash. Oh, Johnny Cash. I mess with
live at Folsom.
Come on, man. What you talking about, bro?
No, wait, come on. I know.
Come
Johnny
on,
Cash.
man.
Yeah.
I mess with it, bro. So I love it all, man. I love it all.
Yeah, man. Well, look, Steve. It's been an honor to have you here on the platform.
Oh, man, I done had so much fun, bro.
Nah, thank you, man. It seemed like three nights a week, man. I get to, I get to talk to a legend, and this one right here, to me, it don't get no bigger than this, brother. Like I owe a lot to you as far as my love for music and me want to pay homage and just continue you guys' legacy, man. I appreciate all your contributions to the culture, brother.
No, man, Malak, thank you, bro. Thank you, man, for having me. I've had so much fun. I mean, I'm up here doing vocals, singing bass lines. I'm up here just feeling free, man. I'm having a good time. I
Yeah.
appreciate your love for the music. And we need people like you out here, man, who can bring someone on like me and make me feel real comfortable in my love with music, for
Hey,
music
stop.
with you, bro.
You about to have me crying, man.
Yeah.
Stop, brother. Stop, man. I feel like I'm dreaming right now. People don't understand, man. This is a moment for me, man. So, brother, again, man, you got any new music coming out, man? Because everything that you do right now is a bonus. The legacy is already set in stone. They need to go ahead and do that unsung. I don't know how they work that type of stuff out, but they need to stop playing Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and man, put some respect on Steve Arrington's name, man.
I appreciate that, man. I got some fresh collabs brewing up, man, that I'm excited about. Like I said, man, me and Kareem Riggins, we've been talking and some other stuff too. And I continue my relationship with Thundercat. Is not one of those one-shot deal moves. We're connected. I've done some things with DJ Cassidy as well. Yeah, and so that's some stuff that's been going on. I've done some sessions actually on that one with Cassidy. So, there's some things in the pipeline, and I'm always working on it, man. I'm always working on it, and I'm looking forward to these new joints, these new collabs that I got going, and continue out to put out new music, man, and work with different people, and appreciate the gift that God's given me, and try to do it until He takes me home.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, look, brother, man, you look good, man. You sound good. I appreciate everything. I can't say it enough, man. So, with that said, I'm gonna sign out. I'm Malak Arif. This Bridging the Generation podcast. We got the one, the only legendary lead singer of Slave and Steve Arrington's Hall of Fame, the one and only Steve Arrington, man. We signing out.
Much love, Malak. Thank you for having me, bro. Peace
Take
out.
care, brother. Take care. Hey, stay. That was thank you, brother. Before we go, we finished recording. But while I have you here, thank you so much, Steve. From the bottom of my heart, brother. Words, I don't even know what to say. I feel like I'm dreaming. I really feel like I'm about to. And I talk to legends every week, but brother, you don't understand. Your swagger, man, you gave me confidence as far as me being a drummer, as far as me, wanting to pursue music. I'm not as talented as you, but I just appreciate your contribution to the culture, brother. So
thank you, man.
I would love to have you back on if in the near future, whenever you got something, man.
Let's do it. I really enjoyed this a whole lot, man. And I felt your love for the music, and it's people like you, and I have to say it. It's people like you that you can hear that they love the music. It gives me a charge. Now, see, I'm fired up. I'm fired up after this interview. I'm like, yo, man, I'm amped.
I'm doing something right, man.
We done went through that. We done went through the music for real. We didn't just mess around.
Nah, we don't do that on the bridge. Your catalog, man, is worthy of talk. I can't gloss over these classic songs and albums. I'm sorry that the interview went this long, but I have to pay. You sacrificed blood, sweat, and tears to bless us with this great music. I gotta talk about it, brother. I'm sorry. I gotta talk about it.
I'm here for it, man.
I'm
here for it. I appreciate it, bro.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, I ain't gonna hold you any longer, Mr. Arrington. Leslie, she has my number. I would love to be able to chop it up with you another time. And maybe I can, maybe I can get your math. If I can get your math. I'm not one of the type of people. I ain't gonna call you all day and nothing like that.
No. However you, I can send it to you. However you want to do that.
I mean, I can take it right now. I can take it right. Yeah. We done recording now, and I would love to have you back on, man. I'm gonna let you know when I drop this interview. I'm following you on social media, so if I don't know who runs your social media, whatever. But I appreciate if you can share it. The platform is we're doing something special, man. Just with artists like you, is the sky's the limits, man. And I thank you for just giving me the opportunity to just continue this thing, brother. So let me go ahead. I'm ready. I got you.
206
937.
Yes. 206
206
07
07
04. Yep.
Got you. All right. I'm locking it in, brother. I'm locking it in. Hey, before I go, I got to ask about one song. I'm sorry to hold you, but I forgot to mention it. I don't. Okay. I have to ask. I think that's me calling you. I'm sorry. That was me calling you. Okay. I wanted to talk about Feel So Real. I forgot to ask you about that, man. I've been playing that. My daughter she's been asking me like, who's this? And I'm saying, it's the guy I'm interviewing tonight. She said, man, I love this song. How do I download it? I'm like, baby girl, I got you. So talk to me about, because it seemed like on that song, it has like some gospel undertones, brother. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like I didn't hear that in a lot of the music before. So is what I'm hearing, is that what it is? Because, that song has just been special to me for so long. And how did you come up with that? Because it's so uplifting, man. It's such a feel-good song.
It is. It has gospel undertones. And it was also my saying thank you to the Escovedo family, because it has a very strong Latin feel to it.
Okay.
And there's Paulina DaCosta on percussion on that.
On percussion, yeah. Legend.
There is George Johnson from Brothers Johnson.
Oh, wow.
And Freddie Hubbard is playing the trumpet.
On the horns. Woo!
He's playing the trumpet solo on that. And that's just me saying thank you to God, man. I owe it all to you. I feel so real, and I owe it all to you.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I know I couldn't get all of that in the interview. I can ask you about a million other songs, but I'm not going to do that, because I think we this is a great interview, and the people are going to love this, man. I really do.
Oh man, I had a good time. And whenever you want to do it again, just holler, man. This was a good time for me too. I really enjoyed it. And as far as the time, I don't even know what time it is.
Me neither.
I don't even know. All I know is that I was having a good time.
Well, brother, I'm gonna continue. I'm gonna help. Your legacy is gonna live after you're gone and after I'm gone. But while I'm here, I'm gonna be shouting Slave and Steve Arrington to the heavens, man. And I'm gonna help keep that legacy alive, brother. Because all that what you guys accomplished, it happened, and ain't nobody can take that away from you guys.
Thank you, bro. Thank you so much, man. That means a lot, man.
No doubt. Well, look, brother, I ain't gonna hold you any longer. You take care. You have a good night.
Big ups, Malak.
All right, peace.
Peace.